How's it going, everybody? I'm your host, Merloski, and welcome to Beyond Action. If you are new here, which, by the way, what are you doing being new here? I have 3 other episodes that you should go watch, but now that you're here, you should just watch the rest of the video and then go check those out. I won't be spoiling anything of what happens in the previous episodes. Today we are kind of sidetracking from the superhero topics and from everything that I am very used to talking about. And I will be diving into some sadder and very morbid topics. So if you're a bit bad when it comes to watching shows that do show some gruesome elements, I recommend that you probably just put this video away or just watch until the end when I give like my review of the movies and what I think about the movies. But you probably shouldn't go too much into detail because I will be going a bit more into detail about what happens. I will be staying more on the age restricted side of YouTube where it says plus 18, not really too high up there, but it does get a bit dicey in this topic. So if you could not gather from the title and the sad topics that we are talking about today, we are talking about the recent upscale of serial killers, or the serial killer trend, as I would like to say it, because there are a lot of shows and a lot of movies that are being pushed out onto us of serial killers that are making extremely good reviews, extremely good. They're being extremely popular, and that is something that I would have never expected, seeing as the trends have been rom-coms, superhero movies, and just basic sci-fi movies that don't have anything to do with a disgusting topic like this one. I thought it was very important to talk about this topic since I will be diving into the whole entertainment industry, whether it be movies, video games, or even music, TV shows. I want to dive into it all, and I want you guys to be here for the whole thing. So definitely stick around the channel, find more videos, and just keep on watching because I have a lot to say about this industry. In my opinion, the most notable serial killer that we will be talking about today is definitely Jeffrey Dahmer. If you do not know who Jeffrey Dahmer is, then you have literally been living under a rock, because one of Netflix's best shows has been about his life and about how he became the person that he became, the serial killer that he became, and what he did to get there. And so it goes into all of that, and it became #1 on Netflix for a very long time. I think it actually broke some records. It got a Golden Globe. It did really well as a show, which I'm very surprised about because it is a serial killer show and a very morbid one at that. If you do not know who the Milwaukee Monster is, he was a very bad person that was active between 1990 and no, I think he died in 1997, but he was active like late 1980s to early 1990s, which then he was incarcerated and killed in prison by another inmate. But we won't be really talking too much about his incarceration, arrest, and stuff like that, even though the show does go into that. I think that the very important part of this show, and why I am explicitly talking about the show, is because of a very fragile topic that it is, and it is a very gruesome topic, to show literally a lot of different torture methods that he would use, and like just it was really weird to watch the show because everyone was just talking about the show and all of this, and I wasn't expecting to see anything too bad. And the first episode of the show, I was about to turn off the TV. I was like, whoa, what is this? Why are people watching this? Why is the world so obsessed with this? To understand the show a bit, I do need to go a bit into the show. So if you have been watching until this point and you are a bit squeamish to the gruesome elements, then you might want to skip the part of Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't know when it will skip. I will try to put the markers on the YouTube. So definitely skip this part where I will probably go into a bit more of a review where I say what I give this show. So the show of Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, follows a young man named Jeff Dahmer going through life, going about life, and finding out that he has sort of an obsession with roadkill and dissecting roadkill, and just basically just finding out like that he has a weird fetish for the dissection and the guts of things. And so at first, like, that's definitely like a weird fetish and thing to have, which, okay, I can kind of accept a bit, like, as long as you get the roadkill off the road. But then he kind of turns that onto humans, and that is not a very good thing to do. Where, yes, I was very disturbed in the whole show, especially because at the beginning of the show, it shows his last victim, which he didn't kill, no, but he did scar for life. But it shows him, and I was seriously disturbed by everything that he was doing. So Jeffrey Dahmer is a boy that obviously likes dissecting things. He was very weird, very timid. His dad wrote a book, A Father's Story. You should probably read that if you are into these types of things. If not, then I try to stay away from this whole very gruesome topic. So he is coming of age and just finding out really weird things, and just all of a sudden accidentally killed someone in his house, and so that his parents wouldn't find out, which his parents were gone, and so that, like, nobody would like come looking for him, he decided to like dispose of the remains. And so since he disposed of the remains, then obviously they couldn't be found until years later when he was caught. He took the lives of many people, which is just deplorable if you think about it, and makes me really think about why this show gained the traction that it did, which is why I'm recording this episode. I'm not recording it to give too much of a... I'm not trying to promote Netflix's show too much in this thing, because I don't think that this is something that should be shown too much. I think that if we show it, then it just leads to a lot of people being fans, and it's a really weird show, and it goes into a lot of really bad and dark scenes that I don't think is suitable a lot of the viewers that were watching it. I didn't have the initial curiosity to go watch it. Like, I barely used Netflix, since the platform is kind of doing a lot of dodgy things, and I don't really find that many interesting things on it anymore. So I was kind of just introduced to it by the amount of people that were talking about it. I would go to school, everyone would be talking about it. My brother would talk about it. Everyone just around me was just constantly talking about it, and I fell into that same peer pressure situation where someone is like, yo, you should definitely watch this, and it's gonna be super cool, like, don't worry. And I watched it, and I don't understand why I watched it, because it wasn't the most interesting thing to have watched. I think the reason why a lot of people decided to watch this video was because of a very unexplored phenomenon named morbid curiosity. Is like curiosity for things that are very gruesome and very dangerous, and humans like looking at that situation and being like, oof, it would suck to be there. I am honestly a victim of this, because I love anything that has to do with the horror genre. I will be one day releasing an episode where I talk about my opinions on the horror genre, how it's failing, how it's not really doing too much. At the time of this recording, Scream has not come out. I hope that Scream proves me wrong. Scream 6. If you guys haven't watched the rest of the Scream franchise, then I don't know what you're doing, because that franchise is amazing up until like the third movie, which was bad. The fourth was okay. Then the fifth, they just try to reboot the whole thing, which was weird. But hey, we got Jenna Ortega in a horror movie, which you always love to see that. Sorry for going off on a side tangent too much about talking like Jenna Ortega and stuff like that. But if I can mention a few more things about morbid curiosity, it is where people just like seeing dangerous situations. It's very unexplainable, because you don't really understand where it comes from too much. I don't like seeing those dangerous situations. I like seeing the dumb decisions that people take in those dangerous situations. Like, you see two doors, and there's two doors. One of them says danger, and then the other one says not dangerous. You get to go home, be free, be safe. And they decide to go with the danger one. That is what happens in horror movies, and that is why the horror genre has been going way downhill, because you can expect the character to be very stupid. In this genre, it wasn't very horror, and it was more gruesome, murdery genre, which I try to stay away from that because I don't really like seeing those types of stories. And yeah, no, it's just really weird. Keeps me up at night sometimes because it's like, how could someone do that? Recently, while I was searching this very gruesome topic, I came across the movie American Psycho. For all of you that haven't watched American Psycho, it is the first installment, the one that came out in 2000. I didn't watch the rest of them because I didn't find them very important. But I found it very interesting the fact that Christian Bale acted in this movie, and it was a really interesting and weird movie. Like, obviously, the movie has been out for over 20 years, so if you haven't watched it, then that's your loss. But in the end of the movie, he grabs a cat, tries to stuff it in the ATM. The ATM won't take a cat, and so he tries to shoot the cat. And then a lady comes up to him and he's like, "Yo, what's going on?" And then he shoots the lady. Really, really weird things that we saw there. But he does go, and like, the movie isn't much about a serial killer or a psycho killer. It explores more the idea of a man with a mental disability. Like, I think that he had schizophrenia and just didn't really remember a lot of things very well, or like made up a lot of things in his mind because he would go into a certain room or a certain discussion and think that people were saying different things. He thought that he killed various different people, and he thought about ways to kill someone which didn't actually happen. He would just kind of do all these different things, which is that is something that you find out at the end of the movie. Once you find out that he didn't actually go on a murdering spree, it was just his imagination. But what I've been seeing from this movie, and a very interesting thing that I've been seeing, is that this movie came out in the year 2000. I had barely heard about the movie until I found out that there were a lot of memes made about this movie and a lot of different like the one of the most popular memes right now that I have been seeing is the Sigma stare, and it is when he is talking to one of his victims in the movie. He like kind of like is like ignoring what he's saying, just like kind of like planning the murder. And so even Mr. Beast reacted to this. You have YouTubers all around the world just doing this stare, like, and they just do this stare, and it's a really weird stare that they just like randomly do. And so he does it, and that became viral, and now everyone is like, "That's the Sigma stare. That is what we've been talking about." Then you have the meme where he's like dancing right before grabbing an axe and going against someone, and you have just like when he's walking with the headphones, when he is cursing at someone, like say like when the lawyer says that it's not possible that he killed someone because he just talked to him. Uh, you have Christian Bale coming up and saying, or Patrick Bateman in this movie coming up and saying like, "Why isn't it possible, you stupid bastard?" Which is like really weird to say to someone that doesn't even know what you're talking about, and you're just making up everything in your head. And so it's a really weird movie, and it's a really weird topic where even people right now were like dressing up as him in Halloween. Like I saw people with like a fake axe, with like a raincoat and just like a suit underneath the raincoat. And you know what that movie is from. You know, a lot of people know where it is, but you just don't really see it very much since it is a very old movie, in my opinion. I was born after that, so it's definitely a very weird thing to be just like kind of advertising on there. Like, I don't really know if many people are able to watch that movie since it does have a lot of and it has a lot of murder, so it has a lot of blood. So yeah, if you are gonna watch the movie, just know that it does have a bit of indecent exposure, if I'd like to say. There are a lot of movies that will go into this topic, and a lot of movies that will make us try to understand a person with mental disabilities and mental health issues that make us resonate a bit with the character, kind of like in the movie The Joker, directed by Todd Phillips, where you know that the Joker is the villain. You know that he's just like going and killing a lot of people, but you start to kind of feel bad for the character. And that's where like I feel like this type of like exposure and popularity is becoming a worse thing, because you have someone that shouldn't even be very popular. Like the Joker is a Batman villain. He is meant to be a villain. He isn't someone that you feel bad for or anything like that. No, you want him to be caught by Batman. But in this movie, you kind of start to feel with the character, and you kind of start to connect with the character a bit, feeling bad for him. Maybe you're not in his situation, maybe you're not in his shoes, and that is probably most people that are listening, but you do start to feel bad for him. You start to feel sympathy to a point where his life has been messed up so bad that the only way that he can get better is by taking it out on others. And so you just have that in the whole movie, that at first it starts being like a normal movie. Like you think that maybe the Joker's going to take some like bad decisions, and then he ends up becoming a Batman villain. But no, it's just society that has done him so wrong that he just goes on the other side, and then he just becomes the Joker and the person that we recognize as the Batman villain. During the movie, you kind of like start to root for him, even though you know that what he's gonna do next is a deplorable act. You kind of are like, hey, like, yeah, like they're making you feel oppressed, they're making you feel bad, like go do what you need to do. And it starts to make you connect with the character a bit more, to a point where you don't feel like he's the villain, you feel like he's an anti-hero. Where in previous Batman installments, kind of like Mark Hamill's Batman in the infamous series of the Batman, you know that he's just a crazy man that just is obsessed with doing evil. You don't think, oh, but maybe he's like just something that is someone that is just misunderstood and he needs like a guiding hand, not Batman's beatdowns. And then here, you don't really think that of the Mark Hamill Joker. In the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, you're like, hey, no, like this guy is just doing whatever he is doing because he doesn't feel like he's being treated right. And so it was one of those feelings that I got where I started to feel kind of bad for the character. And I'm kind of like just like looping and going into the same topic, but it is a very interesting movie. And that one I will definitely recommend that you guys watch. I do think that it hits pretty hard on the societal element. So if you aren't ready for a pretty realism check, then definitely don't watch the movie. But if you feel like you are mature to watch the movie, I 100% recommend it. It is a very good movie, very structured. Joaquin Phoenix won the Oscar for the Joker, but that just goes to show to how popular this movie was. The amount of traction that the Batman villain got, the amount of traction that Patrick Bateman got, the amount of traction that Jeffrey Dahmer got. You get that in a lot of different movies and a lot of different ways, and I can't really explain why it is. I think that it has to do with morbid curiosity, where you're obviously talking about people being in dangerous situations. You have the Joker killing people, you have Patrick Bateman killing people, and you have Jeffrey Dahmer just doing his weird thing. You have all of that, and only for one of these characters can you feel bad. And the other two, they're just crazy. And, well, no, all three of them are technically just crazy. But the thing is, it's just one of those things where I don't understand where a lot of people had that morbid curiosity deep inside of them. Because, like, you don't just randomly wake up one day and be like, hey, I'm going to watch Jeffrey Dahmer. You have to hear it from other people and be like, hey, that's pretty interesting. Or see it on Netflix and you're like, hey, that's pretty interesting. I'm going to go watch that movie and I'm going to go see what I think about it. And then you find out that it is a very bad, a very real look at something horrifying. Like I said before, the horror genre and the thriller genre and everything is just full of these serial killers, psycho killers, whatever you want to call them. They are just full of what is going on with all of that. You have the Friday the 13th franchise. You have the Michael Myers franchise, which they're serial killers, but they're not really understood. They're just kind of there just to kill everyone. Patrick Bateman, the Joker, and Jeffrey Dahmer, like I expressed in this episode, where you have a lot of different serial killers joining the same genre, to where you start to see a lot of different stories play out in a lot of different ways. And I would recommend you go watch some of these things. I do not recommend that you go watch them if you do not feel apt to watch something like this. I can't recommend any of you any one of these movies because they are very deep and gruesome topics. I will say this, there are some messages to be seen in some of them. Some of them are just for the entertainment aspect of it, and some of them I just think that you should just stay away from. However, that is a decision for all of you to make in all of your decisions. Personally, I would give the Jeffrey Dahmer show a acting 10 out of 10, but the show itself I would probably give a 6 out of 10 just for how gruesome it is. Obviously, it went for a gruesome show. I'm not for that. I am very against something that bad, and I don't think that it should be something that is easily accessible to a lot of young minds for them to watch something that bad. Then obviously I talked a bit more about the American Psycho and all those movies. I would recommend it. It's a fun movie, it's a laugh, and it's just a very weird movie because all of a sudden he like starts screaming at someone and then just pulled out a firearm just out all of a sudden, and you start to kind of think like, yo, this guy is 100% crazy, and I don't even know where to start to understand him. And then you have The Joker, the movie that won the Oscar and brought it home again for the Joker, because you have the Heath Ledger impression and then you have the Joaquin Phoenix impression, which both of them are just amazing movies. And I recommend that you go watch both The Dark Knight, now that I mentioned it, and also The Joker, directed by Todd Phillips, acted by Joaquin Phoenix. That movie is a solid 9 out of 10, if not a 10 out of 10. The acting is amazing. The only thing about this movie is that it does go really close into society and societal norms that might not be apt for some viewers. If you have enjoyed this episode, I know it went a bit more into the deeper topic, but I do think that it is something that I should have said. Then definitely subscribe, hit the like button, hit that bell, write down a comment down below on what you think about these movies. I would love to hear all of your opinions, and I will be responding to all the comments down below. Like I said, if you are new, definitely subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode that is set to come out next week on the Beyond Action podcast. You can find it on Spotify, YouTube, or just try to search Merloski. You'll definitely find me there. This has been Beyond Action. Thank you for watching.